that the raid on Cohen's office by the FBI is in fact illegal. He called it a break-in, but the evidence is not there for that yet. So we'll find out what the basis was for the raid, but suffice it to say that the process for actually doing one of these raids on an attorney's office is pretty significant. Ken White is a lawyer on Twitter. He's a lawyer, and he's also on Twitter. And he points out that the law is actually pretty strict regarding seizing documents that could be covered by attorney-client privilege. Prosecutors actually have to show that there is no alternative to such a document seizure. White writes, quote, "The U.S. Attorney's Manual requires such a search warrant to be approved by the U.S. Attorney, the head of the office, a presidential appointee, and requires consultation with the criminal division in the U.S. Department of Justice. This is not a couple of rogue assistant U.S. attorneys sneaking in a warrant. In this case, the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York, widely regarded within itself as being the most important and prestigious U.S. Attorney's Office in the country, secured the search warrants for the FBI. Assuming this report is correct, that means a very mainstream U.S. Attorney's Office, not just Mueller, thought that there was enough for a search warrant here. And a magistrate judge also had to greenlight the warrant as well. So Cohen's office is arguing that he's cooperating with the authorities. One of the barriers to getting one of these warrants is that you have to show that there's no other way of obtaining the documents. Cohen is saying, I would have just handed you whatever documents you wanted. I've been fully cooperative. The FBI apparently went to the DOJ and they said they haven't been cooperative. The DOJ agreed, the magistrate judge agreed, and they went forward with the warrant. I will say this. The chances that the warrant is really weak, like supremely weak, I think are pretty low. The reason being, this is going to be the most scrutinized warrant in the history of American politics. And right here, what we are looking at, a warrant to go after the president's personal lawyer and uncover all the documents between that lawyer and the president of the United States. The burden is going to be really high, unless the magistrate judge is a complete political hack. And my understanding is that the magistrate judge in this particular case might have been a Trump appointee. Certainly, the U.S. District Attorney's Office in Southern District of New York, the person who runs that office is a Trump appointee. We're finding out this morning that the U.S. Attorney's Office there is run by a guy who was actually a Trump donor, but he apparently recused himself from the case because he said that he was biased in the case because he was a Trump supporter. So Trump can't be happy with that recusal either. But in the end, all the information is going to come out. And either this is going to look like, as President Trump says, another witch hunt, in which case he'll be absolutely right to be angry. He will be absolutely justified in firing Sessions and firing the U.S. District Attorney for the Southern District of New York. If this really is a weak warrant, and this is the FBI just fishing around for information on President Trump, there's going to be hell to pay. I mean, things will get really, really nasty really, really quickly. So in just a second, I'm going to give you a little bit more information on what exactly is going on in this raid, what the FBI may be hoping to uncover, and how exactly the documents are going to be handled. Let's start with how the documents are going to be handled. So here again is Ken White, who's a lawyer, and he does this sort of litigation on a routine basis. He says, quote, "The process might involve a judge reviewing the materials to separate out what is privileged or what might fall within an exception to the privilege, or else set up a dirty team that does the review but is insulated from the clean team running the investigation. In other words, if you're running the investigation, you don't get to see the documents until lawyers have already reviewed it to ensure that attorney-client privilege is not violated. Another option is a special master, which is the name for a person who is appointed simply to distinguish documents you're allowed to use from documents you're not allowed to use. That'd be an experienced and qualified third-party attorney to do the review. But if the FBI has all of the communications between Michael Cohen and Trump on hand, then there's probably going to be a lot of interesting stuff there. Because if it turns out that Michael Cohen pays off Trump's paramours, which he obviously did with Stormy Daniels, he admits to that, then what else did Michael Cohen do for President Trump? Now, Eric Erickson, who is a critic of President Trump's, but I would say mainstream Republican, Eric Erickson said that he pointed out there were a lot of rumors during the campaign that Trump had actually paid off women who had had abortions, for example. Would that come up in Michael Cohen's documents? And if so, would that actually be privileged or would it not be privileged? Presumably, even if it came up, it would still be privileged, considering the fact that nothing necessarily illegal went on. You're allowed to sign a settlement contract with a woman who had an abortion to keep her quiet. But if that were to break in the public sphere, then that obviously would undercut a lot of Trump's support base. Again, all of that is speculation, but suffice it to say that when you are putting your dirty fingers into the offices of the personal fixer for the president of the United States, you may be able to find some stuff that is really, really gross. So all of this is really troubling. Now, here's something worth pointing out. Okay, a lot of people on the right are livid today because they say the FBI never treated Hillary Clinton this way. This is 100% true. It is 100% true. There is no question that the treatment of Donald Trump here is absolutely disparate to the treatment of Hillary Clinton. Okay, the treatment by the FBI of Donald Trump is they're going after everything. They're searching for everything. And even if you think this warrant is legit, which it may very well be, even if you think that a campaign finance law was broken here, which maybe it was, is there any question that the treatment of Hillary Clinton was wildly, wildly kind, and the treatment of Donald Trump has been wildly unkind at best? Right? There's no question there's a wild disparity between Hillary Clinton's treatment and Donald Trump's treatment. Remember all the way back to the time when the FBI was investigating Hillary Clinton's missing emails. Right? They were investigating her server because she had set up a private server in her house and she had classified emails flowing through that private server, which exposed them to the possibility of foreign hack. And the FBI treated Hillary Clinton with kid gloves. They had basically cleared her by the time they interviewed her. They added an element to the crime in order to exonerate her. They said she had to have intent to pass off classified documents. It couldn't just be accidental, except the law doesn't require intent. That's what James Comey, the former FBI director, he actually changed the law in order to help exonerate Hillary Clinton. Loretta Lynch, of course, met with Hillary Clinton's husband on a plane on a tarmac in the middle of the investigation, and she still doesn't have any good answers about this. So Loretta Lynch was interviewed by Lester Holt, and Holt asked her about her meeting on the tarmac with Bill Clinton, and you can hear she's still obfuscating the issue.
It was still 107 degrees outside, and I was told that he wanted to come on the plane and say hello.
Did a part of you go, oh, no, turn him around?
You know, at first my thought was, I speak to people all the time, people in public life, people not in public life.
Right, but his wife was under investigation by the Justice Department. Did you have any moment where you said, Mr. President, this is probably not appropriate, or this is going to look bad?
Well, I will say that in the course of the conversation, we spoke and it seemed like we were going to say hello, hi, how are you, and move on.
Okay, so she obfuscates every question. She says there was nothing wrong here, but then she doesn't explain what exactly happened on the plane. All of this was deeply suspicious. It was so suspicious that it is what led James Comey, he said in his own testimony, to basically take over the investigation from Loretta Lynch and then announce on his own what he thought the actual outcome of the investigation should be in order to shield Loretta Lynch from accusations of corruption. So there's no question that Hillary Clinton was treated with absolute kid gloves. And by the way, I have more evidence that she was treated with kid gloves, which I will present to you in just 1 second. Back to the differential treatment between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump by the FBI. Okay, so Andrew McCarthy of National Review points this out. In the middle of the investigation, Hillary Clinton was interviewed by the FBI, and the Justice Department allowed Hillary Clinton to be accompanied at this interview by Cheryl Mills. Cheryl Mills was Hillary Clinton's not only close friend, but personal fixer. Right? Cheryl Mills basically was to Hillary Clinton what Michael Cohen was to Donald Trump. And they allowed Cheryl Mills, who was a former employee at the State Department, to sit in with Hillary Clinton during her interviews, even though she was a subject of the investigation. Right? This is what Andrew McCarthy over at National Review wrote at the time. The reason that the Justice Department was allowing Cheryl Mills, a witness, if not a subject of the investigation, to invoke attorney-client privilege on behalf of Mrs. Clinton in order to thwart the FBI's attempt to inquire into the procedure used to produce Clinton's emails to the State Department. Okay, so let me clarify that in case you missed it. Not only did they allow Cheryl Mills to sit in on an interview with Hillary Clinton, they allowed Cheryl Mills to claim attorney-client privilege in her communications with Hillary Clinton about the emails themselves, even though she was possibly complicit in the hiding of those emails and the setting up of the private server. So it's like, so here they're saying no attorney-client privilege attaches to Michael Cohen because the crime fraud exception, but Cheryl Mills, who's literally under investigation at the same time in the same way as Michael Cohen, or at least in a similar way, she was allowed to sit in on meetings with Hillary Clinton, and they were allowed to claim attorney-client privilege. McCarthy writes, Mills was a participant in that procedure, and it is the procedure in which we now know well over 30,000 emails were attempted to be destroyed, including several thousand that contained government-related business. There is no way Mills should have been permitted to participate as a lawyer in the process of producing Clinton's emails to the State Department nearly 2 years after they both left. I thought it was astonishing that the Justice Department indulged her attorney-client privilege claim, which frustrated the FBI's ability to question her on a key aspect of the investigation, but it is simply unbelievable to find her turning up at Mrs. Clinton's interview, participating in the capacity of a lawyer under circumstances where Clinton was being investigated over matters in which Mills participated as a non-lawyer government official. So again, Trump is absolutely right to be angry at the fact that the FBI treated Hillary Clinton with kid gloves, that the DOJ treated Hillary Clinton with kid gloves. He's absolutely right about that. Now, the question is, should his own DOJ and FBI treat Donald Trump with kid gloves? Now, this is a serious question philosophically on the right. It really is. And I'm not making light of it in any way. On the one side, you have people who are saying, listen, the left cheats. They do. The left used the DOJ as a personal shield for Barack Obama. Eric Holder when he was brought up on contempt charges, Barack Obama stepped in and declared executive privilege to prevent Holder from having to hand over documents. Eric Holder described himself as Barack Obama's wingman. Loretta Lynch played exactly the same role for Barack Obama and also for Hillary Clinton. James Comey obviously was biased in favor of Hillary Clinton in a wide variety of ways, although he ended up close to the election revealing something in order to proclaim his own honesty in front of Congress. He revealed that Hillary might still be under investigation, or at least her emails had come up on Anthony Weiner's computer. Despite all of that, his original attempt to exonerate Hillary Clinton was highly biased in the extreme, and he never should have done it. And so a lot of people who are on the right are saying, well, listen, why should Trump be pure as the driven snow when it comes to his law enforcement agencies? Why can't we just have Jeff Sessions step in and defend him? Why doesn't he fire Rod Rosenstein? In fact, why doesn't he fire Robert Mueller? You know, if the situation is that the DOJ is supposed to protect the president, as the left claims about Obama, then why shouldn't Trump do the same thing?